Thank you for being brave enough to even click on something titled Kill Your Fear. Because let me tell you something right now, the fact that you're here means you're already halfway to victory. Fear. Just saying the word out loud can make your heart beat a little faster, can it? It's a 4-letter word that has probably controlled more decisions, stopped more dreams, and silenced more voices than any other force in human history. Fear has kept people in jobs they hate, in relationships that diminish them, in towns they've outgrown, and in versions of themselves that are shadows of who they could become. But here's the beautiful, powerful, life-changing truth I want you to understand today. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is not a stop sign. Fear is not a lock on the door of your potential. Fear is simply information. It's a signal. And once you understand how to read that signal, once you learn how to transform your relationship with fear, you don't just overcome it. You transcend it, you use it, you make it fuel instead of chains. Today, we're gonna go on a journey together. We're gonna explore what fear really is, why it shows up in your life, and most importantly, how you can kill the power it has over you. Not by running from it, not by pretending it doesn't exist, by facing it head on, understanding it, and ultimately making it work for you instead of against you. Understanding fear, the biology of being afraid. Let's start with the basics. What is fear really? From a biological standpoint, fear is your brain's ancient alarm system. It's been with us since our ancestors were dodging saber-toothed tigers and sleeping in caves. Your amygdala, this small almond-shaped part of your brain, is constantly scanning your environment for threats. When it detects danger, it triggers your sympathetic nervous system, flooding your body with adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart rate increases, your pupils dilate, blood rushes to your major muscle groups. You're ready to fight, flee, or freeze. This system kept our ancestors alive. When actual physical danger threatened their existence, fear was the difference between life and death, and we should be grateful for it. That biological inheritance has served humanity well, but here's the problem. Your amygdala can't tell the difference between a real threat and a perceived threat. It can't distinguish between a lion charging at you and the fear of public speaking. It can't separate actual danger from the anxiety you feel about starting that business, having that difficult conversation, or pursuing that dream that keeps you up at night. Your ancient brain is trying to protect you from threats that don't exist, at least not in the physical, life-threatening sense. And so we find ourselves paralyzed by fears that can't actually hurt us. We find ourselves running from shadows, hiding from possibilities, and living smaller lives than we were meant to live. The different faces of fear. Fear doesn't always show up wearing a mask labeled fear. Sometimes it disguises itself brilliantly. Fear can look like perfectionism, that voice that says you can't start until everything is perfect, until you know everything, until you're completely ready. But here's the secret: you'll never feel completely ready. Perfectionism isn't about excellence. It's about fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of being seen as less than. Fear can look like procrastination. That project you keep putting off, that conversation you keep delaying, that dream you say you'll pursue someday. Procrastination is often just fear in disguise. It's your brain's way of keeping you safe from potential failure, rejection, or discomfort. Fear can look like anger. When we feel threatened or vulnerable, we sometimes lash out. Anger can be a shield we use to protect ourselves from feeling afraid. Fear can look like staying busy. We fill our calendars, we pack our schedules, we create endless distractions, because if we're constantly in motion, we never have to sit still and face the things that scare us. Fear can even look like cynicism or apathy. When we've been hurt, disappointed, or let down, sometimes we tell ourselves we don't care anymore. We mock the dreams we once had. We dismiss the possibilities we once believed in. It's easier to pretend we don't want something than to admit we're afraid of not getting it. Learning to recognize these masks is the first step toward killing your fear. You can fight an enemy you can't see. The cost of living afraid. Let me ask you a question, and I want you to really think about it. What has fear already cost you? I don't mean to make you feel bad. I'm asking because awareness is power. When we honestly assess the price we've paid for letting fear drive our decisions, something shifts inside us. We realize the cost of staying afraid is actually higher than the cost of being brave. Maybe fear has cost you relationships. How many times have you held back from telling someone how you really feel? How many times have you avoided vulnerability, kept people at arm's length, or let misunderstanding fester because you were afraid of conflict, rejection, or being seen? Maybe fear has cost you opportunities. That job you didn't apply for because you didn't think you were qualified enough. That business idea you never pursued because you were afraid of failure. That move to a new city you didn't make because it felt too risky. Maybe fear has cost you your authentic self. How often do you shapeshift to fit in? How often do you silence your opinions, hide your quirks, or dim your light because you're afraid of judgment, criticism, or standing out? Maybe fear has cost you your peace of mind, the constant anxiety, the sleepless nights, the mental energy spent worrying about things that might never happen, imagining worst-case scenarios, and living in a state of perpetual what if. And here's the hardest truth: fear compounds. Every time you let fear make a decision for you, it gets a little stronger. Every time you back down, play small, or stay silent because of fear, you're training yourself to be afraid. You're reinforcing neural pathways that make fear your default response. The good news: courage works the same way. Every time you act despite fear, you get a little braver. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you're building new neural pathways. You're training yourself to be courageous, reframing fear from enemy to compass. Now I want to offer you a radical reframe, something that changed my entire relationship with fear. What if fear isn't trying to stop you? What if it's actually trying to show you where you need to go? Think about it. The things that scare you most are usually the things that matter most. You're not afraid of things you don't care about. You don't feel butterflies in your stomach about things that don't matter to you. That fear you feel about starting your own business, that's because it matters. That terror you feel about creative expression, that's because your art, your voice, your unique contribution to the world matters. That anxiety you feel about vulnerability in relationships, that's because connection, intimacy, and love matter. Fear often shows up at the threshold of growth. It's the guardian at the gate of your next level. And instead of seeing it as a keep out sign, what if you saw it as a you're going the right way sign? One of my favorite quotes comes from author Stephen Pressfield: fear is good. Like self-doubt, fear is an indicator. Fear tells us what we have to do. The more scared we are of a work or calling, the more sure we can be that we have to do it. Start using your fear as a compass. When you feel that flutter of anxiety, that tightening in your chest, that voice that says you can't do this, lean in, pay attention. That fear is pointing you toward your growth edge, toward your purpose, toward the life that's waiting for you. On the other side of your comfort zone, practical strategies to kill your fear. Now let's get practical. Understanding fear is important, but you need tools. You need strategies you can use when fear shows up, because it will show up. Even the bravest people feel afraid. The difference is they've learned what to do with that fear. Strategy one: name it to tame it. Neuroscience research shows that simply labeling your emotions reduces their intensity. When you feel fear rising, don't try to suppress it or ignore it. Name it, say it out loud: I'm feeling afraid right now. Or get even more specific: I'm afraid of being judged. I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of being rejected. There's something powerful about putting language to your fear. It moves the experience from your reactive amygdala to your thinking prefrontal cortex. It creates distance between you and the feeling. You're not your fear, you're the person experiencing fear. That distinction matters. Strategy two: question your catastrophism. When fear takes over, our brains tend to jump to worst-case scenarios. We catastrophize. We imagine everything that could go wrong, and we treat these imagined futures as if they're certain. Learn to question these thoughts. Ask yourself, what's the actual worst that could happen? Then ask, how likely is that? Then ask, if that did happen, could I handle it? Usually, when we honestly examine our fears, we realize that even the worst-case scenario is survivable. We're more resilient than we think. And more often than not, the worst-case scenario is far less likely than our fear-driven imagination suggests. Strategy three: take the smallest possible action. Courage isn't about making giant leaps. It's about making small, consistent steps in the direction of what scares you. If you're afraid of public speaking, you don't have to immediately sign up to give a TED Talk. Start by speaking up in a meeting. Join a small group. Practice in front of friends. Each small action builds your courage muscle. If you're afraid of starting that project, you don't have to complete it in a day. Just write one sentence. Make one phone call. Take one tiny action. Momentum is powerful. Once you start moving, it becomes easier to keep moving. The goal is to make the action so small that your fear can't stop you. Make it smaller than your fear, then do it. Then make it slightly bigger. This is how you build courage, not through massive acts of bravery, but through consistent, small acts of core. Strategy 4. Embrace the discomfort. Here's a truth that will set you free. Discomfort is not danger. Feeling uncomfortable is not the same as being in danger, but our brains often treat them as if they are the same. Learn to sit with discomfort. When you feel that anxiety rising, that urge to flee or distract yourself, pause, breathe, notice the sensation in your body. Where do you feel it? Your chest? Your stomach? Your shoulders? Just observe it without judgment. Usually, when we actually pay attention to the physical sensations of fear without running from them, they peak and then begin to subside. It's the resistance to the feeling that makes it worse. It's the fear of the fear that keeps us trapped. Strategy 5, collect evidence of your courage. We tend to remember our failures and forget our successes. We replay the times we messed up and gloss over the times we succeeded. This creates a distorted narrative where we see ourselves as incapable. Start actively collecting evidence of your courage. Keep a courage journal. Write down every time you do something that scares you, no matter how small. Spoke up in a meeting, write it down. Had a difficult conversation, record it. Tried something new, document it. Over time, you'll build a portfolio of proof that you're braver than you think. And when fear shows up again, you can look back at this evidence and remind yourself, I've done hard things before. I can do this too. The role of community and connection. One of T. The most powerful antidotes to fear is connection. Fear thrives in isolation. When we're alone with our fears, they grow larger, more menacing, more insurmountable. But when we share them, something magical happens. First, we realize we're not alone. The fears we think are unique to us, the insecurities we think make us broken, almost everyone feels them. There's profound relief in discovering that other people struggle with the same doubts, the same anxieties, the same sense of not being enough. Second, other people can offer perspective. When we're inside our fear, we can't see clearly. A trusted friend, mentor, or community member can help us see what we can't see on our own. They can remind us of our strength when we've forgotten it. They can challenge the distorted thinking that fear creates. Third, community creates accountability. It's easier to stay small when no one knows about your dreams. But when you share your goals, when you tell people what you're working toward, you create positive pressure to follow through. Find your people. Build a community of fellow fear killers. Surround yourself with people who are also committed to growth, who understand the struggle, and who will cheer you on when you're brave and pick you up when you stumble. Redefining failure. If you want to kill your fear, you have to change your relationship with failure. Because for most of us, underneath our various fears is the fear of failure. We're afraid of getting it wrong, looking foolish, or falling short. But here's what I need you to understand. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. Every successful person has failed more times than unsuccessful people have. He tried. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. He said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Michael Jordan missed more than 9,000 shots in his career. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter was accepted. Oprah was fired from her first television job. What separates these people isn't that they never failed. It's that they didn't let failure define them or stop them. They extracted the lesson, adjusted their approach, and kept moving forward. Start seeing failure as feedback. It's information. It's data. It's showing you what doesn't work, so you can discover what does. Every failure is a stepping stone, not a stumbling block if you choose to see it that way. And honestly, the biggest failure isn't trying and falling short. The biggest failure is never trying at all. It's getting to the end of your life and wondering, what if? It's letting fear rob you of your one precious, beautiful, irreplaceable life, living your life, not your fear. Ultimately, killing your fear is about reclaiming your life. It's about deciding that you will be the author of your story, not fear. You will make your choices based on what matters to you, what lights you up, what calls to you, not based on avoiding discomfort or protecting yourself from potential pain. This doesn't mean you'll never feel afraid. You will. Fear doesn't disappear, but it loses its power over you. It becomes background noise instead of the main event. It becomes something you notice, acknowledge, and then move forward with, rather than something that controls your decisions. Imagine what becomes possible when fear no longer runs your life. Imagine the conversations you could have, the risks you could take, the dreams you could pursue, the person you could become. Who would you be if you weren't afraid? What would you do? Where would you go? What would you create? Who would you love? How would you show up in the world? Your call to action. So here's what I want you to do. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Today, identify one thing you've been avoiding because of fear. Just one thing. Maybe it's a conversation you need to have. Maybe it's a project you need to start. Maybe it's a boundary you need to set. Maybe it's a dream you need to pursue. Now, take the smallest possible action toward that thing. Make it so small that your fear can't stop you. Send one email, write one paragraph, make one phone call, take one step, and then notice what happens. Notice that you survived. Notice that the fear didn't destroy you. Notice that you're a little bit braver than you were before. Then do it again tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. This is how you kill your fear, not with one grand gesture, but with 1,000 small acts of courage. Not by becoming fearless, but by becoming someone who feels fear and acts anyway. Not by waiting until you're ready, but by starting before you're ready and trusting yourself to figure it out along the way. Fear has had enough of your time. It's had enough of your energy. It's had enough power over your decisions, your dreams, and your life. Today, you take that power back. Remember, fear is just information. It's a signal pointing you toward your growth. It's not a prophecy. It's not a fact. It's not the truth about who you are or what you're capable of. You are capable of so much more than your fear wants you to believe. You are stronger, braver, and more resilient than you know. And everything you want, everything you really truly want, is waiting for you on the other side of your fear. So kill your fear, not by eliminating it, but by refusing to let it make your choices, by using it as fuel instead of accepting it as a barrier, by stepping forward even when your knees are shaking. Your life is waiting. Your dreams are waiting. The person you're meant to become is waiting. It's time. Kill your fear and live.